relaxing, ain't it? People watch me every night. Have that very harsh complex will you bring me a drink, please?
Yeah, not a problem, man. Oh, Chad. Didn't see yous over there. Welcome back to another episode of Waydes World. Proudly brought to you by Wade himself, in accordance to the truth. Now everything said is based on individual experience or individual research. So thank you all for coming on and tuning on in. So from here on out, let's open the door to the next episode. Welcome to Waydes World.
Kia ora. Welcome to Waydes World, episode number 6. So we're sitting in a garage out in the back roads of Māngere here. A very nice and beautiful place to be on a Sunday here. So happy enough to have these two gentlemen with me and sitting down and having a little bit of a conversation on everything that's sort of transcribing in this world at the moment and what is going on. So first of all, I'll pass it over to them and they can introduce themselves. So obviously we've had one of them's been on before and we've now got a first timer. So over to you and introduce yourself.
Talofa lava. My name is Filipo Manasseh. And I'll just I'm gonna enjoy the show. Whatever comes up. But I'm here to enjoy our conversation.
Yo, what's up? I'm Fitz. Nothing special about me. Just honored to be on this podcast with Wade and Phil. So thank you, brother.
No problems, bro. No problems. Well, first of all, Fitz, we'll start off with you, bro. We'll start off with you and what you've been sort of doing in your community, bro. You are a very, how would I put it, sort of undercover, as well as sort of out there as well, doing things for your community. When you're out there doing these things for the community and putting yourself out there, sort of what sort of responses are you getting from the community? Like, are you getting a reciprocated response, like they really want to help build this community up, or?
Yeah, the response from the community is real supportive. It's just trying to find someone to lead it. So I'll take on that responsibility amongst other leaders within the community, and it's all about just linking up like-minded people for pretty much the same cause, But as you know, my cause is a wide range of things. So it's first help the people out, and then along the way it's just have conversations, and see where those conversations lead. That's basically it.
Well, but that's where we've got to start, isn't it? For all of us here, is we've actually got to start in our own communities, don't we? With the bigger problems that are arising within New Zealand and obviously the world as well, but rising within New Zealand, we've got to start in our small communities, don't we?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I mean, if it was not part of the community, then how can you build up your own castle if you can't live inside the community? So that's getting to know a lot of people out there, spreading the message. If one person can understand one message, then he'll pass it on to the next person, pass it on to the next person. So butterfly effect comes into effect now. So it's all about a communication, moral aspects of it too. So
because you grew up in Māngere.
I grew up in Māngere. I'm a minister's son, and we grew up in Māngere. My dad, he was one of the original members of the FAKSA that came to New Zealand over here, and he brought a lot of other ministers to New Zealand, right? So, and he helped to build the community of the FAKSA church in Auckland. So he was very, very well respected, and I got to see a lot of his workings out there, and he was a man of style. He had a charisma to him, but he was moral. He was an honest worker. So I hold that up to him, and the power to community.
So what, like, obviously from your father coming in and starting the churches and the ministers, bringing the ministers over as well, sort of, what changes do you see? Like, especially out here, like I see a lot of changes just popping out every couple of days, every couple of weeks. So,
Yeah.
what sort of changes have you seen over the years?
Well, I've seen the from living within the boundaries of the Bible, of the church, I could see a lot more relaxation now with the younger generations coming through. These ministers here have got a beautiful message that they want to pass on to people, and it's to the individual where it used to be to the collective. So I hold opinion of these ministers which talk to the individual spirit of these people, and they're working out there to deal with the youth. So anyone that does that, I'll hold them up. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. That's good to hear, and it's one of those things. Especially over the last 2 years, like every community's changed, and it's something that we're seeing, not just with here, like with you yourself and Mangere itself, but all over. Well, not, I wouldn't say all over Auckland, but most of Auckland. These smaller communities that we've always sort of lived under an umbrella, haven't we, and sort of pushed to the corner and forgotten about in New Zealand. And I don't know from what your guys' opinion is, but from what I see is we're now starting to see some of these, as I put it, probably underdogs starting to really make a move and starting to achieve things without the help of these government facilities.
Major shift, bro. I could say that there's a major shift, especially like with the work that I'm doing.
Yep.
There's a lot more people involved, like in terms of making things better for the community, making things better overall, in terms of just understanding. Like, there's even people that I know that are talking about the government, especially, not helping. Like, if helping the government, helping us is a massive illusion, until you're actually in the space of helping people, then you realize how much of not helping, I don't know the words, but how much they don't help. There's a lot of gatekeepers. So when we want to do stuff in our community, gatekeepers are sort of like, oh, now you got to do this, because there's so many processes, bro, and it's the processes that stop us from doing shit.
It's the confusion, eh?
It's massive. I mean, we had a meeting last week with some government agencies, Auckland Council and Mangere Otahu Local Board. I mean, it was a good meeting in terms of all of us on the same page. But at the end of the day, those people have processes to follow, whereas us who want to just do the work, we just want to do it. Like health and safety takes over a lot of things, but we're not dumb people. Like, we know, cover the wires, like just cover the wires so people don't trip. Like, it's basic shit. But it's the processes that say, oh, nah, it's not covered properly. So, nah, do it properly. Like, it's like, mate, it's covered properly. Like, it's little things. That might be a shit example, but there's just little things that hold us from doing shit.
I mean, you're bang on the money, really, because it's the bureaucracy which is coming into play now. All these new legislations, all these new laws which are restricting even the people that make our food. These poor guys which are working out in the fields and making our vegetables and our farms and stuff. There's new legislation, new laws, and that kind of stuff that are restricting them from even getting themselves a growing permit. So I look at that kind of like, I was listening to this one farmer last year, and he was a very experienced farmer with a lot of years behind his back. And he said, if I'm having problems with these new permits, imagine the everyday farmer, which is going to have problems, which is going to be a reflection to the consumer as all these prices go up as well. So, I mean, they've said that it's all about the monopoly, duopoly, and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, why did you put those permits there for like that? To restrict our farmers. So the bureaucracy from even the farmers to industrial, now we've got the education services being hit now. So, I mean, wow, where does it stop? People, where does it stop? Where do we say that's enough now? And how can we see behind behind that curtain to go, who's writing these permits and what are these permits? But this is global, guys. This is happening globally, not just in Auckland, New Zealand. Every country is being hit this way. So, my empathy goes to all of the global our constituents of what they're going through at the moment. This is a huge shift and a huge change. But in our little community here in Mangere, right, in Auckland, New Zealand, right, we're feeling it with new legislations coming through, all these new bureaucracy laws coming through, and where's the accountability that comes from that too? So government, you got a lot to answer for.
Yeah, they do. They really do. It's just sticking their finger in the pie, and no matter what they do, don't they? Yeah. And it gets to the point, like what you're saying just then, and I was laughing to myself, was, like even, putting something over a wire, like to put it down so someone doesn't trip over. There's paperwork that goes with that. You put this down, you got to write this down, you got to write this down, you got to do this and do that. There's always some sort of paper trail that they create and make it harder for the average person, like you said, or like the average farmer or the average person to even get ahead in the world, because they want us to jump through so many loops on the way through.
I think what's happening is it called the Cobra effect? So the Cobra effect is when you fix a problem, but then it creates another problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's been happening. So you rewind it right back and they go, oh yeah, we've got this problem, we'll fix it. But then that repair job needs a repair, and it just carries on and carries on. And so that's the Cobra effect that's happening.
Well, I have to ask you, bro, because when I got here this morning, you just got back from a walk. How much money did they spend on that bridge, bro? And they could have put into Mangere.
So the article that I read said that they spent $38 million on a new walk bridge.
Yep.
So it was the original Mangere bridge. Then they built the big Mangere bridge.
Yep.
Underneath there has a walkway. And then they said that the original Mangere bridge was getting dangerous. So then they had to repair it or build a new one.
Yep.
And get rid of the old one, 38 mil. When that 38 mil really, we all know, could have been put back into the, our community. Not even 38 mil, like we could have done with, say, a quarter of that. And then the other quarters could have been spread out along South Auckland,
Yeah.
So, because we're resourceful people.
Yeah.
So if we can make something out of nothing, imagine what we can make out of $1 million.
Man, like since meeting you, bro, like the people I've met through you, like the stuff that they do, like the products they make, and everything's done from home. It's phenomenal. You can get anything out here. You can get anything out in South Auckland, like, and it's like that's probably the best thing that that I shouldn't say it's the best thing, but it's a really positive thing that I see out here coming from, obviously from the North Shore, and coming out here is that, like, literally when I like I said, I can ask you for fucking anything, and then someone out there is doing something from home, and you guys support the smaller person.
Yep.
You don't go, oh yeah, well yours is $10 more expensive, I'm going to go down to Countdown and go get it, or whatever. You guys really support each other.
Simple, bro. If we support locals, we can be self-sustainable.
Yep.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But it's just trying to get that message across to everyone that just spend your money on the small guys.
Yeah.
In which it's kind of like how do you take out the small guys, right? And so you can bring in your big box brands and all that kind of stuff. So perfectly orchestrated, right?
Yep.
So there's been a lot of money which has been printed in the last couple of years, which have only gone to the big box brands and gone to all these other things, but not to the small people anymore. So we've printed within the last 2 years. If you add up New Zealand's history, and you'll find out exactly that all that money that's been printed for history, apart from the last 2 years, this last 2 years is more than all of the money which has been printed in history.
Yep.
So now we wonder why we have inflation, guys. Right? Can't we just look at the Reserve Banks, as we're always looking at the smaller things around us, and then we can look at the Reserve Banks and say, oh, it's you guys which are printing all this money, which is causing all this debasing of our currency. Right. So, but then we've got restrictions on the community, on little businesses that are coming through. Well, these guys have just got free reign, just giving money over to there. Why can't that money be trickled down to the local communities in there? right?
Yep.
And now we're finding hardships all over the place. I mean, yeah.
Yep, and the inflation that's a massive thing at the moment that is going to affect, you know, as much as Auckland is and the world really is not really taking it fully on board. They're not seeing what is actually coming their way, I believe, because it's the inflation's only just growing, and you've got people walking around still going, oh yeah, everything's all good.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And we're looking at we look back at history and we look at the Great Depression. We're in a similar situation to the Great Depression right now.
Yes.
And people don't even realize it. Like the percentage wise, if you look at the percentage wise of inflation that we're in, we're closing in on the Great Depression already, and we're still doing okay. So that should I believe that should open a lot of people's eyes into the money that is actually out there. There's far too much out there.
There's far too much out there. So if you look at Paul Volcker, which was the Federal Reserve head back in 1980s and something, I mean, he raised interest rates up to 20%, right? If we raise interest rates up to 20%, all bubbles will be burst.
Right? Oh, absolutely. Straight away.
Everything will be just destroyed. But because we've printed so much money, right, and we've debased our currencies, I think what happened in the Great Depression really is like they kicked the can down the road, all right? And now what I'm feeling at the moment is that we can't kick the can down the road anymore.
No.
I think this is going to be an end to a system which was built to enslave us. So I rejoice on that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, bro. I'm with you on that one.
All the power to the people on that one. Right?
Yeah. I saw an interesting video last night that sort of explained this, sort of explained what was going to happen. And it was real basic. They had actually just made this pyramid, full of, sugar cubes up the top. And then it was in this tray, and then she poured water in the bottom, warm water in the bottom. And what it was that the system is dissolving. We think we're going to take the top off and fix it that way, when in reality, what's going to happen is the bottom of us, these people like us that have had enough, and we're at the bottom, we want to change. We're going to start splitting it from the bottom, and then everyone's just going to have to eventually fall into line. And then we're going to have a more even base of, once everyone sort of comes down, there's going to have to be some sort of, not a government, but there's some sort of people just to keep the countries going, in regards to communicating with other countries. But it just showed how, like it's really going to be a ground up movement. It's not going to be from the top, because the top's already done all its resource, put all its resources out and taken everything from us at the moment.
That's right. And if you look at the councillors and these MPs, which have been there for like years and years, I mean, these are career people. And these guys are only going to be recruited from the top. So what about the bottom? Where's our say? So we need these people to stand up, and every community to stand up and to say, we've had enough, and that will dissolve. That's the bottom right there, dissolving. But we can't do anything about that until we fix what's happening at the top there.
Yep, you're 100%.
I must say, like, for those who are voting, because I don't vote, for those who do vote, they should look at who they're voting for in terms of career politicians.
Yes.
The system has been crumbling years on years on years. And if these are the same people that have been in there, what change are they going to make if you're going to vote for them?
Absolutely.
So there is other people that you can vote for. I don't know who, but
yeah, with you, bro. I don't vote, and I won't. I won't be voting. And yeah, I just, I look out there and look at, we know the system's corrupt. The system's got to go. But at the end of the day, if we had to put someone in there, for whatever, to cover us for whatever time, there's no one.
Yeah.
Like literally, they all just lie and talk shit, and they tell us things that we just want to hear. And that's all they continue to do. Even the people, and I'm going to be honest, while I'm just on here, is even the people that are within the truth movement. There's a lot of non-truths that get spread around there, and in regards to politics and that as well. So it's on both sides of the fence. And when I look at the politics side of things, it just to me it just doesn't make sense anymore. No. If you know that these people are lying, then what are we why are we throwing anything at them?
Exactly. I mean, as I grew up, I used to watch my father getting meetings with like he was in meetings with a lot of the politicians, like there was Ross Robinson used to come through. There was David Longy that used to come through all the time as well. And I used to go up the road and go
He's
get
from Mangere.
Yeah, he was a Mangere boy, and I had to go up the road because I had to drive the car then, and I was just learning how to drive. And my father says, "Here, son, take the keys, go get a big Kentucky Fried Chicken for that man." And so I would come through and do that, and I would sit there and watch them. And basically, I couldn't talk. I wasn't allowed to speak. All my role was there, as if I played a member of the community, was to sit down, shut up, and don't say a word, but just be valer. And in my language in Samoa, that means just
Be done.
Just be done. Yeah. So I see a representation of double speaking. Right. These people speak a different kind of language, which they've been taught. All right. So, of course, if you're going to be a career politician, haven't you been, like weaned into this kind of role? And like what we spoke about before. If we look at the top and how they recruit, like, how do they do that? I mean, who are these people that they recruit to? So the word apocalypse, right? Which all the people think that it means the destruction of the earth, and no, the apocalypse means to reveal.
Yep.
All right. So if we just pull the curtain across and see exactly who these people are, then we'll find, different institutions which represent the main head. And this is how they're recruiting these people, like the young global leaders that came into play, like Macron, Trudeau, ScoMo, Merkel,
Ardern.
Yep. All right. So like now we see how they recruit. All we got to do, guys, is just pull the curtain across and see who they are, see their lists, see their agendas, and then we can have an informed decision that we can make. But until that time, because we can't see who these people are, we can't pull that veil across. We're still in the slumber, still in the mist at the moment. So I think today was about revealing who these people are too.
Yeah, I guess them being sort of stuck in the mist, as you say, is kind of like them being in that half awake, half sort of how they put it, half asleep, sort of asleep, as people say it, asleep to what's sort of going on. So I can definitely understand, it's also to do, with the education system, the indoctrination and things like that around why we are sort of in this mist or the slumber or sleep that humanity's in at the moment. And these people have really taken charge and taken us for a ride, haven't they? And we really are in a slavery as such.
Yes, I do believe that in the history of the world, we have got more slaves right now than we've ever had in history. Of course, we've been like the indoctrination of the education system. What is true history these days? I mean, we all are asking ourselves these questions now, as we start to wake up. Energies are changing, and the narrative is starting to change now. So I know that you've got awesome listeners out there which will understand exactly where you're coming from. I know that you can go a little bit deep sometimes, but we're just skimming over the top of it at the moment. So to understand the collective consciousness has been made into the mist. I mean, we've been stuck into the mist with this narrative of there's a massive mind control system happening. Anyone that watches the news and goes with the narrative is stuck in the slumber into the mist. So, I mean, having your shop, Fitz, coming through, and you've got different people which have got so much passion in their lives to talk about these things. I mean, that's the news agency, that's the new media right there. When people are talking to each other, and they're passing on messages. So your role in the community is very, very important, as every other person's role in the community, as they pass messages on to other people. That mailman that comes down the road and he delivers you your mail, that's a message. That butcher that you meet, he passes on a message. So it's understanding to listen to the message, but do not get caught in the narrative of what they're trying to say to us. This is all orchestrated. And of course, it's it's hard to break out of these things sometimes, because you got to really look into your own trauma sometimes. Yeah, there is a definite mist, a slumber. Yeah,
It's just a low lying cloud over everyone, isn't there? It's
well, with the people that come through our shop and talk about things.
Yep.
There's a lot more awareness about what's happening in the world.
Mm.
There's a lot more awareness about what's happening internally with people, and I guess that's the first step to making big changes. Awareness,
awareness,
self-awareness, and awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. And through your shop, bro, like just like what you're saying there, is you're seeing people sort of more aware about what's going on over the last 2.5 years now. What have you noticed a big change in the people that are coming in, like the internal changing and things like that, like since
Yeah, I would say
the big lockdown?
Definitely. What people don't know is, what they do know is that the lockdown really made people aware of what's going on. At the start, everyone was a bit hesitant about speaking what they thought, but then once they hear someone that's like, oh, bro, I don't agree with this. This is what I believe. Then, that person who was afraid to speak up will then go, oh man, yeah, bro, that's me too.
Yep.
Like, knowing that they're not alone. And I guess that's what we all should do. Even if we have different views on things, we should still speak up about it, have that conversation, but have it with an open mind.
Yep.
Don't have a conversation with an ego, thinking my thoughts and the way I think is the truth, is the way.
Yep.
It's just having that conversation so you both can come to an agreement. Even if you agree to disagree, the mutual respect is still there.
Yeah. Like I find like along this journey that we've been on too, if you have even a slight disagreement with someone, it's just like breaks everything. And it's like, well, you can see past that, like it's like the small things we can see past. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck on, is all the small things.
Yeah. You don't, like, there's so much information out there that it's easy to divide a nation. If we all just understand that we are all different, but we are all the same.
Yep.
If we understand that and we just stay connected, that's pretty much it, bro. Stay connected with each other.
Yeah, well, they're using race, religion, sex now, everything tactics, to try and divide us.
Yeah. Now they've got the new he, she, pronoun thing. Yeah. Like that's more divide.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much fucking shit dividing us.
Yeah, there's a lot, and then you throw that into like we said just before, the education system. You throw all that stuff, all that he, she, it, blah blah blah, into kids that are 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah,
like what are they gonna,
right,
what are they gonna get out of it?
I'll mention something. So we sponsored a school, Southern Cross campus. We sponsored a school because they made it into the league. This is off topic. They made it into the league finals, the girls and the boys.
Yep.
So we sponsored them some hoodies and we went to drop it off. Bro, the whole school was closed off like a prison. Like we couldn't get in. We had to stand at the gate and buzz to get in.
To get into the school.
Yeah, like they locked in. Like I was so amazed. Like the receptionist came to the gate and I was like, man, it's like a fucking prison here.
Yeah.
And she laughed and she was, oh, in her mind, it's keeping them safe. That's their narrative. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, you're locking these kids in.
Yeah.
Like they're locked in, bro. Like like you go to a prison and you go see a prisoner. That's the same way you're gonna go see these kids at the school.
Yeah.
Go in,
because that's the school I went to.
Yeah.
And the gates was fully open before you can drive in. And now, I was amazed. At what's happening out there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I've got a grandson, grandsons which are at school, and they're the only ones which are not wearing masks. And I hit him up the other day and says, so how many people in your class don't wear masks? Just me, granddad. And I wonder now, because now you got to look at the true science behind this as well. Like what the hell? I mean, if a mask is 80 microns and the virus is 1 micron, do you think you're going to stop anything? Right? What did they do to the Jews?
Yeah.
They put a mask on them. You might as well draw Judah on them at the same time.
Hey,
But even in saying that, bro,
Yeah.
like for me and me and my community and the brand that I stand by, like, yeah, like I'm all good. If you want to wear a mask, you got to respect them to wear a mask. Like, and then for those who don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. So the ones who don't wear a mask need to respect those that wear one, and the ones who do need to respect those who don't, and just leave it at that.
Yep.
You know.
And you know, it's speaking on that, bro, is again, it's we know it's part of the narrative and all stuff and helping divide the nation even more as well. But you have you have those people out there that, you know, the mask wearers, and I will be honest, a lot of the mask wearers out there that just give you a dirty look, or they have something to say under their breath because we're not wearing one. Yet, you know, if you turn around and said something to them, you're the most evil person that's ever, you know, you can't say anything to me like that. You can't speak to me like that. It's okay. And I'm not saying it's on one side and not the other. I'm saying it's on both sides. You see people that don't wear masks and are like, you know, they'll walk past a whole lot of people and be like, oh, take your fucking mask off, take that off, rah, rah, rah. Just like Fitz said, I'm the same. When I started this with the freedom of choice. You know, I'm not going to wear one. If you want to wear one, fuck, so be it. It's doing damage to you, but that's your choice. You know, like I'd rather get on with shit and deal with the big problem than deal with all the small ones, you know. But yeah, definitely the mask is the starting with the mask is the start of covering your mouth, shut up and be a slave. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day. Exactly. It's been through history many times where they shut them up. Yeah. So they're just playing history games again. We're in the next part of the beginning of the next cycle, really.
I think you're bang on the money there. This is history replaying itself. I mean, every 100 years. I think I started look right back to 1500s, and there was a pandemic, there was a collapse, and there's a war. So every 100 years we have the same pattern coming through, and nothing's new underneath the sun. So we got the same thing happening here again. So it's like okay, but as we unveil and as we can see exactly what they're doing, I mean, a lot of us can't see what they're doing. We've had to go back to go forwards. Right, but to be in the present here and now, we can see exactly, you know, like the restrictions on our children, the restrictions on even trying to talk about the truth as the regulations come from all these platforms. It's getting harder. It's getting harder to you know, just to bring out some kind of truth into the matter.
No, it is, and you know, doing what we're doing right here. You know, I've been a big victim of censorship, you know, over the last 2 years. So I know all about the censorship and all that, because man, it's some days, you know, you put this body of work out and it hardly ever gets seen, and you're just like, well, what's going on here? You know, like, you know, you think you've done something good in that, and then you actually look at it and you're like, it just doesn't go anywhere. And it's just the social media. Well, it's obviously social media and stuff like that stop these from going out. You know, they stop the algorithm from putting these things out, and then you get people that lose accounts and things like that just for speaking out. And it's one thing I've always said is that you know, we do get banned and stuff on social media. At the end of the day, when it comes to social media, we have to realize that someone else owns that. At the end of the day, yes, freedom of speech, we should be able to speak about what we want, but at the end of the day, someone else owns that. Someone else has designed that. They've put it there on purpose to shut us up when they want to shut us up. Let us talk about what we want, what they want us to talk about. If we're speaking on their problems, then we're all okay. But the minute that you stand against them, that's when obviously shit hits the fan. So Waydes World's been hit with censorship more than once. I think Fitz, your first podcast was the one that we got the first COVID-19 knock on from Spotify from. True. Yeah. So that was the first one. But I say to everyone, look, if we're actually doing it now without even really knowing we're doing it, is we're connecting back to people more. Like we're dropping, you even said to me this morning when I turned up here that you're having a morning off without your phone. You know, like we're starting to put the electronics down, starting to have these conversations, you know, and starting to actually speak to people, and you're not getting the pushback of, oh, you can't talk about religion and politics. You know, that's the main topics most of the time. You know, now when you talk to people, because the country's falling apart at the moment.
Yeah,
you know, we're losing something that we all grew up loving. And that's probably my biggest, I'd say my biggest heartfelt at the moment is we're losing, you know, something that we all call home.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the last thing that we want to lose.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, if you look at the mass media, you know, the mass formation of psychosis, which has happened, this is military grade.
Yep.
This is global military grade, which is steering the collective consciousness into an angles, you know, and now we're going to get penalized if we try to talk about it, right? So you're right. It's individual communication that comes to everybody, you know. If you can tell one person something new, right, which will astonish them, they're going to be so excited. They're going to tell two people.
Yep.
Those two people will tell four people. So we have a butterfly effect that comes through you. But a military grade operation that this mass media has done has led us into the mist, you know. And of course, people can't wake up from that because they're stuck in that mind control.
Yep.
So it's best one-on-one conversations. You can watch all these podcasts, and you can watch a lot of people out there, and they've got different narratives for different agendas too. But you will find out yourself. You can feel the intuition, the empathy inside you. You feel the goosebumps as they come up. You know when the truth is being told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I read everything. Intuition.
Yes.
Like if I get the goosebumps or that, then I'm like, yeah, we can look further into this. There's something behind this. My body's telling me there's something behind this.
Yes.
Or, you know, when someone's telling me something and there's no feeling to it, I'm like, all right, maybe, yeah, I'll have a look at this, but I don't think I'm going to find much.
Yes.
But and bringing up intuition too, just quickly to all the listeners out there, the more you use it, it's just like anything, isn't it? The more you use your intuition, the more you start trusting the intuition, the better it becomes too, doesn't it?
Yes.
You know, I found, especially, you know, with discernment and fishing through all the people that we're fishing through.
Yes.
The more that I tend to use it, the more, the better it became.
Yeah.
And you pick things up from a smelly rag now.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of people which have been still lost in the mist, and you know, we have to talk about these things. You know, we've got to talk about past traumas. We've got to talk about the burdens. So we're stuck looking in the past sometimes. And my main talk within the last week to different people was like, it's okay to look back at imagine a metaphor, which would be a train coming through, and every compartment of the train, every carriage is burdens and guilt and shame in the lower three dimensional chakras as we live it. But if we can just look at these things and just look at them for what they are, trauma, burdens, and then we can forgive ourselves, forgive others. We can be the first movers.
Yep.
We can be that tractor unit which will go forward. Now, the intuition only comes back to, like, you can look at these things and say, I forgive my past and anyone that's hurt me, and I'll hurt those people as well. Now, you can turn around and be the first mover and the best version of yourself. Now, the intuition represents awareness, right? Now, you're fully aware now, right? As you've broken through certain kind of mind controls, and it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. The intuition plus the empathy. Remember that your mind is a thought, right? And your heart is like, your mind is a frequency, your heart is a vibration. When the two become one, you have an energy. If you look at Tesla, he says frequency plus vibration equals an energy. So intuition with empathy will bring out a deep kind of awareness. And I think that's what we're looking at right now. It's just breaking through the military grade mind control that comes upon us. Yeah.
Yeah, agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Like, you can, once you start to get that energy, that frequency, that vibration, start to really use that, you start breaking down that mind control straight away, don't you? It just starts falling away slowly. But like, you know, bringing up what you said about the healing and the traumas and stuff. That's a lot. Especially with Māori and Pacific Islanders, there's a lot of healing and a lot of trauma that needs to be fixed in this time, isn't there? Māoris, obviously, we know with what happened with the Māoris early on in New Zealand, and obviously with the Pacific Islanders that came here with the dawn raids and things like that. The way they've been treated, they were sold a dream to come over here and make hundreds of dollars and be able to send it back to their families. And again, they came over here and earned peanuts. They were told they were going to have these big jobs, and they were sold a dream. And so you're right. Like in these communities, in even in Māori and Pacific Island culture, there's a whole lot of healing and trauma that needs to be released, I believe.
Definitely. And trauma, what I learned from my bro Matt Brown, my father's barber, she's not your rehab, that trauma is in our DNA. And it's embedded in our DNA. So whether or not we get some sort of trauma, like we could live that perfect childhood growing up, but if our great grandparents have been traumatized, obviously us as PIs and Māoris have been, that trauma is stolen in our DNA. And until we really heal that trauma, then we can move on from there. Just my 5 cents on that trauma stuff.
Well, I think it plays a big part in all of us, because that restricts us on how we move forward a lot. Because you've got a mind which is always there, which has got to tell you, no, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do this and you can't do that. And you can do it, right? You can do whatever you want, but the trauma restricts us from even trying to move forward. And because of the collective pain, we're going to join that, you see. So this is where the media comes into play, right? There's a collective consciousness which is telling us that there is trauma all over the place. Like with a pandemic coming through, everyone's scared. There's fear, but they can't deal with their own trauma within inside themselves. So they go with the collective trauma. When you try and tell somebody about a little bit about what's going on, they get angry because that goes against the collective. So dealing with our own internal trauma will bring peace. And when we find peace, we find awareness. Remember, the mind is a frequency, the heart a vibration. When two become one, you'll make an energy. And the energy opens doors. Right? We're living in a very spiritual world, and we're finding that our spirituality has been taken away from us because we're going to be compartmentalized as robotics or biohacked, whatever they want to call it. But we need to break free, because we need to be the best versions of ourselves. We need to be the original movers, as our ancestors were way back. But because of this indoctrination of mind control, we're only just a little part of what we should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I find it really exciting too. I don't know about you two, but like while I'm discovering all these things that have been hidden from us, it's exciting. Like I find it truly exciting that I always thought we were watching something the other night, and I said, like when I was a kid, I always wanted to go out and discover new things. Like that was something that I wanted to do. And then I realized, I was like, oh, well, I've kind of missed that boat, because the world's been discovered already, like everything, but not everything has been. It's just what we were told. And now that I'm in this process of learning what I'm learning, it's just like every day I'm learning something new, and it's just, it's insane. It's so exciting. But also at the same time, it's so sad to see what they've done to humanity. But I try not to sit too long on the sad side and just worry about the exciting things and what we can do going forward.
It hasn't even been that long though.
No.
All the bullshit. It's only been maybe 400 years, 300 years.
Yeah. Well,
it's been going on for ages, but for us as Samoans,
yeah,
like if we just go back 400 years and get the stories from there, that's our truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you're on. I mean, I look at it as we've gone back in history. This is thousands of years. I mean, I look at what I loved my father, I loved my church, but I had to go backwards to be where I am right now, to see. So when Constantine changed, when Constantine kicked up those Jews, and then he put in the Jesuits over there at 325 AD in the Council of Nicaea, that's when everything changed. That was the pivot. Yeah. I see how this this dogma had arrived, as well as the narrative of this another faction. Which, if we cross over the veil, then we'll see them all. So, oh, I'd love to say these things to you guys. I would love to say these things to you guys. Yeah, but there is an agenda. There is true history which has been hidden, right? And those books of Jesus, which are in the Apocryphas, which were taken out in the Council of Nicaea. So these were the things that told us how to be the best versions of ourselves. So, yeah,
I think we're sort of taught to look at that book with a different set of eyes these days, aren't we?
I think so.
Yep.
I think so. I think that book was written for kings, made for kings to understand it. So when everyone's looking at this book and they're going, no disrespect to any dogma, no disrespect to any religion whatsoever, but when we're told to step outside ourselves and to look at things, I mean, we're going to be waiting for what's going to come out of the clouds. Well, let the birds beat us there first, right? Because it was always inside of us and outside of us. But the mainstream mind control has made us to only look from the outside, never to look from the inside. The inside will only promote the guilt and the shame and all that stuff. Right? Yeah.
Yep. And then we end up suppressing all that shit inside us, and then we end up with a society that's full of mental illness, a society that can't talk, a society that can't actually really communicate between each other, can we? You know, and that's what it's been created that way, just because shutting people up, and then obviously come along with the technology, and then throwing in, you know, your cellular phone.
Yeah,
that's, as much as that's been an absolute awesome tool. It's also been, it's had an effect on both sides. It's been negative as well as positive, I believe. You know, the good old black mirror that you hold in your pocket will tell you everything that you need to know. You're already part cyborg with that thing in your pocket. So, you know, they're already on their little agenda push with that, and keeping us under control, you know, in the technology side of things, as well as, you know, I always say too, you know, going back to the book, previous to them having, you know, cell phones and technology, well, how else did they used to control people? With a book.
The book, yeah, because
all books were claimed to be true until about I think it was about the late 1800s. They didn't have non-fiction and fiction until late 1800s. So every book that was written was considered truth. You know, so it's one of those things that, you know, and like you said, I'm not, you know, everyone has their beliefs, everyone has their way of, I guess, maneuvering their way through the world and their beliefs. But sometimes you have to start actually really questioning your beliefs, or your core beliefs, because sometimes, you know, a lot of people say fact creates beliefs, but in reality, beliefs, you know, change your opinion of fact. Because it's, you know, you don't want to see it for what it is. And I think that's kind of what we're stuck in at this point in time, that middle ground. Like there's half the people that want to see it for what it is and want to see through the veil and want to see that other side, and then there's half the people that want to get to the veil but don't quite want to step through.
Yes.
You know, that's what I'm sort of seeing. And until we get those other people to take that step through, I think we're going to be stuck in this middle ground, or I call it no man's land at the moment. And
when we're stuck in mass formation, all right, of psychosis, all right, with the mainstream media and all that, no one can really see anything, right, unless you look within yourselves. And so it says in the good book about, you know, like, just to break down these little codes inside the book, it says that, you know, only the children will enter into the kingdom. All right. And I said, what the heck does that mean? So that means that, does that little kid over there is going to enter into the kingdom? How is that going to? Until I had a good research and to find out of my perspective of what that meant, would be like, as a child, you know, your belief systems have got to be removed or deciphered or broken down to understand. So therefore you can turn around and become a child and learn a new belief system, right, which is now looking into true history, true awareness, who we are, you know, and what this world was all about. So to enter into as a child, right, you have to disregard the old and bring in the new. Right? That's full on awareness now.
I could also It could also mean to enter into the kingdom of heaven. What is it to be a childlike?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much to say, when a child's born and before it gets influenced, that's our true nature,
pure humanity,
Yes.
right there.
so
Yeah.
when you understand that, that's when you can reach that.
Yes.
Always be your inner child.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
when you can reach that level. So you imagine a child that just that's born and doesn't get its parents or its surroundings put onto them.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Imagine
Their beliefs, yeah.
The
You know?
indoctrination.
So you send a kid to school, and you listen to the questions they ask. It's out of this world. Like they ask questions that out of this world, and then by the time they finish school, that creativity and that thought process is gone. So it's gone by the time you hit 15, 16. You know, so if you take it back, right back, and childlike is obviously before 7.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's when what's the
Theta.
theta. That's when
Yep.
we're you know, obviously what you said at theta,
Brainwaves,
living
yeah.
in that subconscious, you know, so that's our true way of thinking.
Our brain's like a sponge and it's just
Yeah.
taking in all that
Yeah.
information, but then, you know, we send them to
So
school.
if we
and
take it back to then, before influence of the world, that's the truth.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I have to agree, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Before we were influenced. Right?
'Cause that's what it is, eh? We're in a world of influence though, aren't we? Really?
Yeah.
You know, look at what do they call these people that are on social media? Influencers.
Yeah.
You know, influencers. They influence, you know, what the way society or what society's sort of path they choose, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you could probably call, you know, some of those politicians out there influencers too. But you're 100% right, is up until that age of 7, those kids are in that theta mode where they're a sponge of what they're learning around them. And you know, it's like I say to most people, when you learn the law of where you live, we don't sit there and read a book, do we? We don't sit there and learn the law. That we learn it by living it, and that you know, in those years coming up to that, and what's right and what's wrong. We just have to change what we're taught, really, and change the way, you know, obviously that the education system was obviously brought around to, all it was to do was to create more workers, you know, intelligent enough to read and write and do basic math, and that's all we needed, you know. A few farmers to go do some farming, and some factory workers.
I remember looking at Robert Kiyosaki, and he broke it down quite nicely. I mean, there's only one diagram which I watched from him, and I mean that I've really understood. So when you leave school, right? Imagine you got a square box over here. You divide that into 1, 2, 3, 4 compartments, right? And as you leave school, where do you fit in this compartmentalization of this globalists, right? So as we leave school, because we've been taught how to just be a good slave, you're going to be a employee, right?
So it's the 4 boxes is employee, self-employed, business, and investor.
No, investor, and then a conglomerate.
Is that what he had?
Yeah.
There we go.
So the first one, you're going to pay the least tax, right? As an employee, as a self-employed, you'll pay the most tax. As self-employed, you'll pay less tax. As an investor, you're going to pay even lesser tax, and as a multinational conglomerate, you're probably going to pay no tax. Your secretary will pay more tax than your business. So this is where we've been steered through. You know, we've been steered into this crosshairs. Where do you want to be over here? Well, most of us are going to be as employees. We're going to pay the government the most tax that we can.
And that brings it back to slavery.
Yeah.
You know, it's only an illusion of freedom.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
just that people, when the difference between now and when there was like slaves, between the slavery now is that the slaves knew they were slaves. It's like nowadays we're slaves, but we think we're free.
We think we're free, yeah.
You know? It's all an illusion.
Well, they own, you know, the government own everything that we own anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it's exactly it. Like you're saying, we think we're free. You know, my car that's sitting out right there, it's got a registration on it. Who owns that?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Government does. So that's exactly what you're saying, is that we think we're free. We think that, yeah, okay, we've paid for that car. That car's mine. I can drive wherever I want to go. But the minute the government needs, you haven't paid a fine or something, they'll just come and take their registration back, which is the car. Have their debt paid for. Even I speak to spoken to some parents lately, like even your parents, the name parent, you're a peer of your child, and you're renting the child off the government. You've registered, birth certificate registered. So you're actually pretty much, just the legal guardian of the child, and they've directed us through that, exactly like through the indoctrination through school, through not teaching us what we need to be taught, and them just putting in, oh, here, just fill this form out. Oh, yeah. This child's been born. Just fill out a birth certificate for us. Just give us a registration over here. And that's what this whole process has ended up doing. Is like what Fitz says. We think we're free, but in fact we're still under huge slavery, like massive slavery. Probably even I won't say worse, but we're definitely up there. We just don't get whipped and things as much anymore. But it's the whole system is created for us to be slaves without knowing that we were slaves.
There's tax on tax.
Tax on tax.
Everything's tax.
Yeah, I know.
50% tax on us, really, you reckon?
Well, I know for a fact, this is for a fact, my last job I had before we finished up there, I don't really care. I was earning, I think I was on about 70 grand a year. I was at 33% tax. So out of, take 33% away from 70 grand. And they expect you to survive, and then in New Zealand at the moment, they're telling that the average house income to survive needs to be higher than 100 grand. Most people are out there earning 45 grand before tax. You'd be happy if you're earning 50 grand at the moment before tax.
It's so weird, because I was hearing on just driving around, and I'm hearing on Talkback show, and they're talking, like, I'm listening to people that are over $150,000 right now, struggling. Literally struggling, and they're going, how can you live like this? But then we come from what you're talking about, parents, like a peers renting, right? And then you go to the next step up, government, right? This is mind control, right? To control the mind.
It's just been a system that's been built and stacked against us, isn't it, the whole time? And like, there's definitely those few that get out, or make their way out. But a lot of the other time too, you find that the people that make it out tend to also they've got to do something in order to get through that barrier, and the rest of us have got to be stuck behind that barrier and find our own ways. And that's why you have a lot of these people out there doing your own thing, like you've gone out on your own, to start your own business, to break that barrier on your own. Like, you just, what else can you do? It's same as what me and Jim have done. We've just gone, no, we've got to break this barrier on our own. Like, there's no reliance on government at all, because we know they just fail us time and time again.
Exactly.
And we also got to understand, like, just to live within our means. Be content. It's also an illusion that you gotta have so much money to be able to survive. But it's not even like that.
That's true. That's facts.
Like what you said this morning, like, there's no income coming in, but look, you're still here. You know what I mean? Like, we honestly can still survive with no income. Like, you can come to my house and eat. If I'm getting some money, well, and I don't have to have the whole $100 to myself. I can spend $100 on shopping, and whoever comes to my house can eat for free.
You're eating.
And even the illusion of the food is running out. Like, personally for me, the illusion of food is running out, bro. There's so much food. Like, I go to birthday events. At every single birthday event, someone leaves with food. And that just goes to show that there's too much food.
Yep.
Like you can go to the shopping mall, like you might see some stuff empty, but you don't need a bag of apples. You only need like 5 apples for the week. You know,
and that apple will probably come to the fridge and go back 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, take it for its daily tour. 5 apples can last you 3 months. But definitely with food, I know there's a lot of.
Yeah.
You know, like yourself, you're stacking up some food.
Yeah.
That food that you got stacked up can last you already a year, 12 months.
A couple of years probably.
Yeah.
You know, so
Take note, people. Take note of that.
And,
a couple
it's
years of
only
food.
probably just that corner.
Yep.
You know.
And it's all the like people again. It's going out and buying the actual products. Like go buy flour and rice and fucking a bit of sugar and things like that. Like the shit that you can use to bake with if you have to. The shit that you can use to make. How hard is it to make fry bread?
Exactly.
Like if fry bread's not hard to make at all. If you spent 2 seconds on the internet, you'd learn how to make fry bread.
Yeah.
You want something sweet, like I've done something, and it's I make fucking big bowls of coconut rice now. Takes me fucking 20 minutes to make, but I have it in the fridge now, and then it's like it'll be in the fridge for 2-3 days. And you want something sweet that's not lollies from down the road or something like that. You just coconut rice.
And can I add as well, like the illusion of, like I know people say breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like that's still a lot of eating.
So that's way too much. It's too much.
Lunch, and dinner, and breakfast for one person could be, this much, and then you're gonna eat that same for lunch. It's like, right, that's still a lot of food.
And then dinner again too. I eat about once a day now. Once I probably snack on something in the morning, have like something to snack on in the morning, and then dinner.
I know it's different for people that work out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because they're constantly burning and they need that fuel. But for the regular people that just get up in the morning and go do shit,
they eat for the sake of eating.
Yeah.
It's just they're bored, so they go to the cupboard.
Well, I suppose that like what we're receiving now, and what a nation has was last year's harvest.
Yes.
So now we've got this year's harvest to come on to next year's production for next year. I'm hearing farmers saying next year will be a wholly different year. And I'm hearing I've been watching countries going through changes at the same time. So we are part of the system too. So it'll eventually get to us. So we're seeing fertilizers, we're seeing flour, we're seeing rice, we're seeing droughts all over the place as the concentration of the magnetics, which is coming on the earth at the moment, which is high concentration of heat, which are dealing with China. So rice will be in short abundance, next year, right? This year we've got last year's harvest coming through, so that's why we are saving up the food right now to get ready for these production lines, which are starting to fail. Right? I mean, I'm looking at the Yangtze River at the moment. I mean, that's down to its very minimum, right? That these things usually run hydroelectric dams, which normally power the manufacturing plants of China, which are all closing down. There's a lot of them closing down right now. So for a manufacturing plant it's nearly 8 weeks from manufacturer to the consumer. So I'd say another couple of months probably before we start seeing things starting to come from China, which not come from China.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm seeing a whole new shift coming through, and we're in a process of time at the moment. But last year's harvest is now, and we're eating the abundance. But next year's harvest will be few and far between. Right. So,
I've been in contact with a couple of farmers because I've seen a couple of farmers posting on Instagram and Facebook and that, like, oh, no one's, the companies aren't coming through to purchase our stuff, so we're destroying the crop. So I'm messaging them straight away. I'm like, bro, like, what are you, like, why are you destroying your crop for? I was like, one message to, not just to me, but, anyone that's inside that, and just say, hey, look, a farmer's got, a whole thing of corn, a whole thing of corn. He's got pumpkins and potatoes and that. Like, I'm sure people out there, if you send a message out and said, hey, look, cheap potatoes, cheap fucking corn, these guys, the farmers are still getting paid for all the work they've done. People are then getting cheaper food because you're not paying the fucking corporate corporate countdown or pack and save price at the till, you're getting it even cheaper. Everyone's getting paid. So, at the same time, looking at those farmers too, that's what I've been talking. I've been trying to hit the farmers up with, because I'm like, as much as you're just destroying your food because you're not getting the profit that you want.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, they're not willing to pay for this, so we'll just destroy it.
Yeah.
Well, how about we try and reuse that? Look at all the homeless people who we could be feeding, all the people that are out there that we could be feeding for free.
Are there kind of like restrictions on these farmers to go?
Well, if
there's
there's
definitely that
definitely-
kind of stuff, can they sell?
Well, the thing is, and that's where like I'm also going down as well, is that if they're not going to buy it, if you've signed any contract where we've got to sell to you, but they're not willing to buy it, then why don't you just start? They're breaking their contract.
Yeah.
Break your contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Start selling to the public.
Exactly.
Do your civil disobedience
and
break the unjust, restrictions that's put on you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what it's going to have to take. It's going to take those big people to break the chains of the corporation. Once they break the chains and start selling directly to the people, or start realizing that we are more important than the corporation, and you'll probably end up, a lot of these farmers, or not just farmers, but a lot of people that have products and sell things and stuff like that, will more than likely end up making more money, working with their local neighborhood and their general public, rather than going through big corporations, because the big corporations take a big cut of everything that you do. So,
well, there you go. People, if you're hearing this, if you can, if restaurants are getting food through these contractors, farmers, and they can't uphold that, go find that contract. I mean, go in between that contract and go, hey, come on, guys, we're here. How can you sell to us? We know that they've got them in bulk. All right. So make up your communities and buy them in bulk.
Yeah, just a question on that.
Yep.
Can everyone just be on a verbal contract between A and B? So, for example, the government's made a law.
Yep.
But then me and you will agree on something. Can we make our own contract? Like, it doesn't matter what this says, it's what me and you agree on. Does that make sense?
In the system wise, there would probably, more than likely, I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but there would obviously be some kind of we've got to go through the government to get to you. But it's like, that's what I was saying about civil disobedience.
Yeah.
Just break the unjust.
So for me, I believe like everything is contractual.
Yep.
If one or two parties agree. So it doesn't matter what someone else says. If me and you agree, so if I agree to grow this lemon and give it to you, and you agree to take my lemon, then that's up, me and you.
That's an agreement.
Why should I go through the system to say that this lemon's all good to sell to you when you agree? Yeah, bro, I've seen your process. I trust it. I believe it. Like, that's how we should live. I think that's how we should be living.
And that's how we did live. Like, that's how, you look back to we'll go pre-treaty signing. You look back then, and the reason why we had to first originally sign He Whakaputanga as well is because we were internationally trading already. We were moving stuff over to Sydney in Australia and taking things over like that. And then, of course, the British Imperial decided we're not flying the flag, so we're not allowed to trade. So that was obviously the start of why we signed what we signed. But that's how we did everything, and everything, especially in the Māori world side of things, is everything was done, not written, it was verbal. So eye to eye, you eyeballed the guy across the room from you and you said, hey, look, we got this deal going on. If you break that contract, blah, 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 and so you had a verbal agreement that was eye to eye. And then if you could spot someone, you could tell if they were lying or not.
Well, it's also standing in honor.
Yeah.
Standing
in your truth, your honor.
It's pretty straightforward.
That's where we got to go. And go in between all these big conglomerates and all these farmers and go, hey, come on, let's make a verbal contract. I think that's the next step in the community, to build communities up and let these, if they're going to waste all this food, and you got all these communities waiting for it, you might as well have a representative go over there and take the bulk and give it out and distribute it out to the community.
Oh, it'd be way easier, and it'd be
Yeah.
so much better than even giving the community money.
Even barter with it.
Yeah, barter with it.
Hoi pecorn.
Yep.
I'll swap you for some beetroot.
Yeah.
Or,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
whoever's selling whatever, swapping, growing whatever.
I mean, these things need to happen. In our reality, you know,
Yep.
living in the now, these things, I mean, it's only just a awareness thought, but they can be actioned in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
But looking at what's happening with the whole financial systems coming through, I mean, what happened in the Great Depression, you know, they just kicked the can down the road, really. And right now, we're not going to kick that can down the road. I think that the awareness of the collective consciousness will understand exactly where the reserve banks come from. And the basis of our slavery comes from there. And everything is built from that, you see. I mean, of course, we're dealing with Rothschilds, which were the Khazarians.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. So there's a huge change coming towards us. I don't speak lightly about these things because I've done a lot of research, and like the research, I can feel it in my heart, and it feels like we're going to go through huge changes and huge shifters financially as the purchasing power of our dollar dies. Other things of commodities that really represent something, they rise. So it's like looking at reserve banks all over the place, looking how they're just overprinting and overprinting. New Zealand's going to come into something. The whole world's going to come into something. So it's how we can prepare for this right now. So us talking about, you know, talking to these farmers and that kind of stuff, that's a part of our preparedness, right? So because we've got heaps of loved ones behind us, so how do we prepare for them? Someone's got to represent, you know, maybe me, maybe Fitz, Wade, maybe all of you guys out there, which will make that initial move to make that contract. Verbal contracts are cool, but we've got a lot of people to feed in the, you know, once the dollar starts dying. I mean, I think that's the big part over here, that humanity becomes free after a long, long time living under these reserve bank restrictions and all that. So you know what they're trying to do. They're trying to push digital stuff onto us, and at the moment, people are going to take it, right? So if we weren't hardcore slavery before, we are going to be very shortly as we come into this time of tracking, you know. So China's got a law at the moment with their social credit scores. If you're orange, you know, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure how that standard goes over there, but if you've done something wrong or you've made a wrong comment on a platform, then they can restrict you from hopping on the bus.
Oh, you just look around now.
Oh,
how many cameras are popping up?
Oh my gosh, I see them in Australia. They're everywhere.
I was saying that I said that on the way over, we were driving through. We come through the new tunnel there, you know, and I said, "This is the dumbest tunnel in all of New Zealand." I said, "And why?" I said, "It's got speed cameras in it. If you want to catch us speeding, come out and catch us speeding." You know, like what? Why do we need all these cameras around? Why do we need, you know, like the point of getting caught is you got caught.
Yeah.
Not being surveillanced wherever you go. Oh, yep, his car's just gone over 80 kilometers an hour. Better ticket him. You know, and then you don't pay your fine. Oh, well, his social credit scores goes down some more. You know, it's coming that way. New Zealand's financial system is already at 97 to 98% digital already. You know, so we're nearly on that. You know, where we've already got companies out there through the middle of bloody COVID going on about, you know, they won't want to accept cash. You know, they've just used that as a ploy to get rid of the cash. You know, but you know, through this whole period, I've forced my hand with that, and I will, if I don't have to use the card, I'll use cash as much as I can. You know,
well, it's a legal tender.
Exactly. They can't deny it. It's legal.
I suppose if you use cash, you take off the power of the reserve bank.
Yes.
All right. So using cash fucks them
because you become a creditor, not a debitor.
Yeah. That's right.
Because you're on credit with the cash, you're not in debit with a debit card.
You
know, that's what people don't understand. It's a reason why it's called a debit card. Because you're the debitor, you're not the creditor. You know, so having that cash in hand, you become the creditor. Because you have the cold hard cash. So I always tell everyone to get as much as everything's going to fall over, have a little bit of a cash stash there as well.
I think so too. I mean, like, if they're going to try and kill cash, you know that it's the last anonymous currency that we have in the world, right? Is cash.
Yep.
So if they want a complete like 97% digital,
Yeah.
97. I mean, shit, just imagine 100. Then they're going to flip the switch. Then we're going to go to central bank digital currencies, right? CBDCs. There's how many countries in the world which are already working on that right now, right? So they want to track you all the way through, right? But if we look at who, I mean, why are they doing this for? This is because they in 1929 they kicked the can down the road in the Great Depression. They can't kick the can down the road over here. So a great reset means that they're going to reset the currency as well. So instead of having these four major banks that we're dealing with over here, like Westpac and all these other guys, we're going to be dealing with a central bank currency. So that's so if they can't move this any more forward, then they're going to create another currency which will entrap the younger generation.
Crypto coming in hard, and it's already entrapping them.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, and I will speak just quickly while you brought up their finances. Is the crypto is that's exactly what they've done with the crypto. Is they've got people to use their financial money, well, their you know, the cash that we have available now that we can use from the financial system now. They've then gone and put it in, transferred it to something that doesn't have any backing whatsoever. And then the only reason why these cryptocurrencies are, you know, like say Bitcoin's worth $1,000 or whatever it's worth at the moment, but the only reason they're worth that much is just hype. It's hype behind it. You know, same with the financial system at the moment. The only reason why the money's worth anything is because people will say it's backed by nothing, but it's actually, in fact, it's backed by oil. You know, and the reason why it's backed by oil and
petrodollar,
is because oil is actually it's the second most abundant liquid on this planet. It rejuvenates itself. So if you have something, you know, as again, this is probably going to trip a few people back out, but because they called it fossil fuel to create an illusion that it was going to run out, because it was supposed to run out by the 60s. That's come and gone a long time ago. But what they've inherently done is created a currency that can rejuvenate itself, so they can just keep printing it and printing and printing. And it's why they now want to change the money to be, or when they went to digital, they want to have it backed by water. Because water is the most abundant liquid on the planet, you know?
Exactly.
And then when you have abundance, then they can keep printing and keep printing and keep printing and keep printing. And that's why going back to a gold and silver backed dollar or currency is good, because there's only a certain amount of it in the world. There's not, you know, so once we reach that maximum amount, you can't go anymore.
Yes.
You know, because there's no value to that note that you're handing over anymore.
Exactly.
So it's once we, you know, again, it's everyone doing their own individual research and and looking into their own things that they want to look into. But once people start understanding, it is the system. Like when people learn the system and understand the system that we are trapped in at the moment, that's when, and it's why I bring up knowledge is power, because once you start to learn it and you understand the knowledge of the system, it gives you that confidence, that it then inherently gives you that confidence and that power to make that forward step. Because you understand, you know, the system that you're in. You're like, nah, that's wrong. You know, like, nah, that's wrong, you know, and then you'll start to move forward. So that's why I say, once you start to learn the system around you, you get more of that oomph to talk out as well, because that you have the knowledge, which is the power. I mean, and I think that's what most of New Zealand needs now is knowledge.
Is knowledge. You're right, Avi. I mean, look at it, you know, the petrodollar OPEC, you know, well, that was a lot of blackmail there, wasn't it, from the Americans all the way down to the Arabs. I mean, look at these guys which were terminated, you know, like Gaddafi and Hussein, you know, they wanted to go to a gold standard, so they were terminated in that. So I look at the petrodollar right now, and on August 24th last year, it died because Putin came into Saudi Arabia and says, we'll protect you. The Americans made the OPEC deal to protect all of these oil producing economies, right? But when Putin came in over there and says, I'll take it now, and they made the deal, well, they killed it, right? So a death of the petrodollar came on the 24th of August last year. But we haven't had a funeral yet.
Not yet.
Right. So I'm looking at a funeral probably between October to January, October this year to January of next year.
Yeah.
So and that's why they need to bring in these things as fast as possible. These digital currencies, these interoperable bridges that will transfer from the old into the new. They need to bring these things in quickly, but totally centralized. So your tracking systems are all there. But these guys are desperate, man.
Yep.
They're full on. But the petrodollar died, but it just needs to have a funeral.
Yep, exactly. And once we have that funeral, I think people are really going to see the state of what New Zealand is really in at this point in time, or the world is in at this point in time. And it's actually not. We're not in a bad state. We're in a financial bad state, which is a private venture anyway.
Yeah.
The monetary system is a private venture anyway by the Rothschilds. So,
Yeah.
which
is Khazarian.
Yeah, which is Khazarian, the Khazarian mafia. It goes back there, which again has a problem with Russia. Early on in the early days.
Yes.
And it's just a continuation of history, fighting and moving forward, isn't it? It's just a repeated cycle.
It's a repeat cycle.
It's a repeated cycle. So we've got to learn to break the cycle. And that's what I was saying about knowledge, and that once you have that knowledge, you end up breaking the cycle of the system we're in. But yeah, it's sort of closing up for now, and and having you on, and I appreciated both your guys' time and speaking about a few of the problems that we have in New Zealand and around the world at the moment. It's not always the easiest things to speak on because like we spoke about during the podcast, the censorship and the banning and. You don't know who's going to be knocking on your door after you post something. But is there any last words either of you guys have for everyone out there that, give them some words of encouragement or, something that they might like to hear?
Oh, well, this is what I'm doing. How do we navigate through the ossification as we're going to come into a dilemma very shortly? So it's like, I love Buckminster Fuller, right? Now he was an old scientist. He did surveys and did researches and did all that kind of stuff, right? He did a survey on gold, and he said that there was more gold in the world than there is silver. So what I'm saying right now is that how I'm going to navigate through the obstacles that have come to us as we come to a dilemma, right? You can either die or whatever. The end result is how do we make a decision as we're supposed to navigate through these things? We can't go with these digital currencies. We can't go with any of their kind of currencies. So we go with the natural currencies which have been brought from the ground over there. So my pick to obfuscate through the navigation of dilemma would not to be with gold, but I'll go with silver. Right? As it's undervalued, it's the most undervalued commodity in the world, which will flip the switch and you'll see that guy fly. But that was the people's money. The gold was the bankers' money, was the government's money. So I'll go back to the people's money again. And if there's not much of that stuff lying around, then I better grab some.
Go out there and get your silver.
Oh, and for me, I would just say, just keep connecting with people. Have conversations, with an open mind. And it's all right to disagree.
Yep.
Just respect each other.
Yep.
Because there's so much division happening. At the same time, there's a lot of connecting happening. But, let's all connect so we can all vibrate at a higher energies. And just one thing I learned the other day about energy was someone on a lower frequency that talks to someone at a higher frequency, you get these headaches. Yep. You get some sort of headaches. It's because you are now vibrating at a higher level, which means you are now becoming more aware of what's happening. Yep. Your chakras are opening up. So what I want to say is that when you connect and have conversations with people and someone seems high on energy, accept that energy and take it on. Because what that's going to do is it's going to make you a better person, and sometimes it's like some people say it's like some people are thinking outside the box, or however you might say it.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Have conversations with open mind, connect, because within that connection, you will find the truth. So that's pretty much.
Go there and search. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate both you guys giving me your guys' time. I always say this, but time is the most important thing that any of us have. So I appreciate you guys sitting down and giving me your time. And to everyone out there, thank you guys for tuning on in, and thank you for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed another episode. And just remember, at the end of the day, we are all perfectly imperfect. You are all beautiful, and you are all loved. This is a mind game, and it's a mind war. So at the end of the day, the further, the more that we connect, the more that we start to have some knowledge, we'll start to grow together. So go out there, trust in yourself, believe in yourself, and the most important thing on the way on this journey is to remember who the fuck you are. All right, go out there, remember who the fuck you are, and take back your power. And then we'll all stand together. So other than that, thank you guys again, appreciate it. And we're all done and dusted. So ka kite.
Wait, one more thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to say on behalf of all your listeners, thank you for your heart and your mind and your soul. You have poured everything into this. This is my first podcast, and I can feel your energy, I can feel your love. So on behalf of everyone out there, I'm going to thank this guy on behalf of all of us, okay? Much love. Love is the highest frequency. So thank you, Wade.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very
Amen.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheer, whānau. Oh, thank you, bro.